What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, TV shows. If it's geeky, if it's nerdy, I love to talk about it here. And it is Shark Week. Yes, Shark Week is one of my favorite times of year. And last night, I sat down and watched it from 8 o'clock until it was over last night. So what was that, around midnight? Watched it with my daughter, and she fell asleep about halfway through Tyson versus Jaws. She did not see whether or not Tyson was able to put a shark to sleep, but guess what? I will be able to talk about that a little bit more during my review of Tyson versus Jaws. That's coming later on today. Right now, in honor of Shark Week, though, I want to talk about Deep Blue Sea 3. Deep Blue Sea 3. Of course, it is continuing the Deep Blue Sea franchise, which started several years ago, and then they had a sequel recently, and then obviously Part 3 just came out. So the original Deep Blue Sea, we know Samuel L. Jackson, LL Cool J, you know, it was a, gosh, I want to say it was 99 when it came out. I could be wrong on that, but it was a fun shark movie that was very campy, very silly, that took place in kind of the early days of CGI movies. And it was fun. Deep Blue Sea was a fun shark movie that made no sense whatsoever, but it was still fun. Then Deep Blue Sea 2 came out. Deep Blue Sea 2 was horrible. I mean, it's one of the worst shark movies I've ever seen, and I watch all the shark movies. I do. I watch all the shark movies. Deep Blue Sea 2 was trash. Now, Deep Blue Sea 1 involved mako sharks, genetically enhancing mako sharks so that they can help cure Alzheimer's. Deep Blue Sea 2, they went to the bull sharks. And now Deep Blue Sea 3, like I said, 2 was horrible. Deep Blue Sea 3 is a continuation of Part 2, which was loosely a continuation of Part 1. They exist in the same universe, and actually in Part 3 they reference Part 1. Deep Blue Sea 2 was basically a low-budget, poorly acted ripoff of Deep Blue Sea 1. It really was. I mean, they were essentially the same movie with some differences thrown in. Deep Blue Sea 3 picks up where Deep Blue Sea 2 left off, takes the story in some new directions, and is a legitimately better movie. Like, significantly better movie. I found myself really enjoying Deep Blue Sea 3, and it has no right to be enjoyable. As bad as 2 was, and since this is a direct continuation of 2, it had no right to be enjoyable, but it was. Now, yeah, it was really silly, completely unrealistic. The CGI was bad, but considerably better than 2, and considerably better than most shark CGI that you get these days. So what happens is, at the end of Deep Blue Sea 2, you've got the sharks that escape. And in this movie, there's some people who are hot on the trail of these sharks. And there's 3 of them, 3 bull sharks, and they're siblings. And they behave like sharks don't behave. You know, you've got whenever they're hunting somebody, you got the one in the middle, then you got the 2 flanking them, and they're coming in, and, you know, it's silly. It's all silly. But in this one, the sharks come across an old, I think it's a whaling village, right? It was called Happy... Oh gosh, I forget what the little town was called. It's a town that is on the water. And I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was an old whaling village that people do not live at anymore. I was going to try to find the Little Happy. I knew there was Happy in there. It's Little Happy, this town. Only 2 people live there. At one point, it was over 800 people living there. Now 2 people live there, and some researchers. There's a shark sanctuary down there where they really like to do their research on the sharks. There's a completely, entirely, 100% unrealistic relationship between a shark researcher and a great white shark. It's almost laughable in the relationship that's depicted between this great white and this researcher, but whatever, you know, it's the 3rd Deep Blue Sea movie. And then, you know, the sharks descend on these researchers, and then the people who are chasing the sharks catch up, and you've got a salad bowl of craziness that's about to happen. You've got your researchers, you've got your shark hunters, you've got your sharks, and they all kind of have their own agenda, and they all have their own goals, including the sharks. They all have their own goals that they want to accomplish, and a lot of people get chewed up, a lot of people die, and there's human conflict in this one, where, I mean, towards the end of it, I was just kind of laughing to myself, like, there is a martial arts fight going on in a Deep Blue Sea movie right now. It was completely silly, very campy, but I found myself having a lot of fun with it. The gore was taken up a notch, and it wasn't overly gratuitous gore. It was just, I don't know if this is the right way. It was fun gore. It was just fun, right? It was silly. Like, there's this part where this guy's got one of those, like, underwater machines that helps propel him through the water, and they're trying to get to him, and when they get to him, they're like, "Hey man, come over here, and he just swims by, and once he swims by, they see that half of him has been bitten off. I mean, it's that kind of gore. It's silly, it's campy, but it also brings the blood. It brings the gore. And in a movie like this, that's perfectly fine. I enjoy seeing some fools get chewed up by sharks, and that happens a lot in this movie. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. The acting was not terribly great, you know, but they got through it. They got through their lines. They got through them. They did the motions. You know, when you're watching a movie like this, you're not watching it necessarily for Shakespearean level acting. You're watching it for the sharks, for the carnage, the special effects, and all that is pretty good. The shark action is pretty solid. The special effects are better than most movies of this kind. Most direct-to-video shark movies, this has better special effects. The carnage is there. So yeah, I'm telling you what, guys, if you like shark movies, I think you're gonna have a good time with this one. I really do. It's completely, entirely different than the previous Deep Blue Sea movie, and I think a lot of that has to do with the set, right? The set, this town, Little Happy, that's on the water, kind of has its own personality, and as the action happens in the movie, as the destruction happens in the movie, be it destruction by sharks or destruction by man, the set continues to play a pivotal role in this film. You know, there's parts of the set that starts to sink, there's parts of the set that catches fire, and it's all very dynamic. And I think that the set, this town, Little Happy, really creates a more fun environment for this type of storytelling. Because not only do you have the menace that's the shark, not only do you have some potential menaces and some human beings, but you also have this town, which is very volatile itself. So, yep, if you're able to forgive some bad acting, and if you're able to forgive some ridiculous shark science, I think you're going to have fun with Deep Blue Sea 3. It was so much better than Part 2. Part 2 was embarrassingly bad, and this was a huge improvement. I give Deep Blue Sea 3 a C+, which I gave Deep Blue Sea 2 an F. A C+ is a huge improvement over an F. This was enjoyable. I think you should check it out, especially right now. It's Shark Week. Shark Week. Check out the new shark movie, Deep Blue Sea 3. I think you'll like it. So, what did you think of Deep Blue Sea 3? If you have seen it, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your take on it. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. I put out a bunch of content. Want to make sure you're up to date with everything that I'm doing. And as always, thank you for joining me here at the LQ Review, where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.